Hi, this is Saksham and welcome to this brand new video on what exactly the proxy is. This is the most comprehensive video that you will ever find on proxy because in this video we are just not going to talk about what exactly the proxy is. We are going to talk about the different applications of proxies, how reverse proxies are helping out with the load balancers onto the different website servers. Also, we are going to talk about what are the 18 different kind of proxies which are helping you out to give the enterprise solutions. Because proxy is just not the middleman which is helping the client to connect over the internet by which you are staying anonymous. Proxy is way much more than that. So let's get started with this comprehensive session on what exactly the proxy is. And if you're liking these kind of sessions, please don't forget to hit subscribe and the like button so that I can get motivated in making such of more detailed videos for you all. So let's jump in. Alright, so let's quickly get started with the session of proxy. Alright, so what happens is that if we take a real life scenario, then for example, if I'm not going to college and if I'm not attending any session, then I'll ask my friend to get a proxy for me. For example, when the teacher will call my name, that's Saksham, and some of my friend is saying, present ma'am, that means my friend is acting as a proxy for me. In a lot of cases, that if your dad is not fulfilling your demand, then you ask your mother to convince your dad, and then he's granting you for the permission for any XYZ work. That means you are using your mother as a proxy. All the close ones at some point of your life are acting as a proxy. So that is actually taking someone else's help to get your work done. That is actually what the proxy is. So what happens into the real life scenario, if we take it from a little bit of technical aspect now, then you see you are suppose this client in here, right? And I can say that this is you as a client, and then what actually is happening right now, that you are sending an IP address, and where you are sending that over a global internet, suppose. So over the global internet you are sending your IP address, you can say, which is getting resolved with the help of DNS. We are going to take a separate session on DNS as well, and that is also going to be like this much of detailed session. So suppose you are sending this IP address to the global network and it is getting resolved without any third-party barrier, because you are directly surfing on internet. But suppose if your government is not allowing you to access some kind of content, or if you are sitting in a monitored network where they have restricted some of the website or the content use, then you are certainly going to take the help of proxies, for which actually the proxies are quite famous for. So let's go ahead and make a graph of proxy. So in this case, what happens with the proxy is that you have this client again in here. So I'll make this graph of proxy, and then we'll be explaining all the proxies with the help of this graph only. And by the way, we are almost going to cover 18 to 19 proxies in this session. So take a sip of water, coffee, or whatever you have nearby you, because this is going to go for a little longer. So what actually happens, that again the client's IP is being resolved, but right now we have something in between that is called as proxy servers. So we have the dedicated server here for you, like you have your friends there to get your work done. So likewise, we have the dedicated servers for you as a proxy in this case. So I can name it as a proxy server. Now I'll tell you that how it is useful in the practical application, but right now you have some of the middle barrier that is allowing you to do a lot of actions that are not completed in a single way. So then this request is going to the proxy server, and this request is gone from the proxy server, and it is actually resolving your what? IP address. Right, it is resolving your IP address before going in front of the global internet, you can say. Bear with my handwriting a little bit. So this is the global network. Now let's explore that what exactly is the use of this proxy server. So with the help of this proxy server, you can stay anonymous over the network, and also it can be used to speed up the resource through caching, you can say. Into the upcoming time, we will see that caching is an enterprise solution. For example, if your web server is taking quite a lot of load of a lot of users, then you can make a proxy server of that web server, and then the load will be distributed among the different proxy servers, in which it is giving a lot of solutions to the web clients. But that is happening over the reverse proxy methodology, which we will talk about. But right now you need to understand that you are a client in here. You want to stay anonymous, so you are using a third-party proxy server, and then it is being served to the global network. It is also used for hiding the information about the network systems and the servers as well. So this was the normal proxy that we have been hearing about quite a lot. But what actually happens into the enterprise edition? So this was the use of proxy over the internet, you can say, when you were requesting something onto the web page. But in case if you want to see it into some other application, for example, this proxy can also be used as a firewall. It is not necessary that you are just using the proxies over the internet. You are using a lot of physical proxies as well, apart from the websites. So this proxy could be also acting as your firewall, where the client is requesting something and the firewall is deciding that whether that is a malicious request or not. Or suppose if you're getting a response from the global network, then the firewall will decide again, in order to keep you safe, that whether that request is malicious for the client or not. So you need to understand that it is just not restricted towards the website, it is also there into your physical systems as well. And if we try to talk about the methodology of proxy, then there are the two main methodology that the proxy server is following. The first one is the forward proxy server, and the second one is the reverse proxy server. So let's first make an example of forward proxy server. So into the forward proxy server, suppose you are the client again in this case. Right? So after the client, you get the stage of proxy server, you can say. I can call it as a proxy server. So please concentrate here a little bit more, because these are the steps where we are going to demonstrate that what are the different 18 kind of proxies. And in order to understand all of these 18 kind of proxies very easily, we'll be applying all of these 18 kind of proxies on these exact graphs. So these are the 3 graphs only that you need to understand. This is the second one, and I'll make another one for the reverse proxy as well. So this is something that I've made for firewall. So suppose this is your, let's say, firewall, right? And here in this stage you have your internet. So you can say that this is your web or internet again. So let's say this is internet, and then you have this web server. So let's name it as web server. So what is this process called? This process is called as forward proxy server. Now, what is this proxy server? It is for the clients actually. So suppose this proxy server is forwarding the request through your proxy server actually, and now this request is going and getting forwarded to firewall, and then it is going to the internet. So there could be X number of reasons, if you want to stay anonymous, or if you want to filter out something, or if you want to see that what is there inside the packet with the help of a lot of different proxies like Wireshark, Burp Suite, in order to introspect that what kind of requests are going from here to there. So this could be acting as a proxy server, which is forwarding your request through your firewall, because it is usually there into the Windows operating system these days. It is by default there, and then it is forwarding the request to the internet, from which the request is going to the web servers, which is in a very simple form getting fetched to you through the internet via your firewall and via your proxy. You can get and check the response as well into the proxy, and then the data is served to you. So into the different kind of examples, we will learn that what are the different kind of proxies are in here. Now there is a reverse proxy, which is quite interesting out there because this is the solution for the client. But what are the solution for enterprise edition? The reverse proxy is giving a very solid solution to the enterprise edition where they are setting up a lot of web servers and all. So what actually happens into the reverse proxy methodology, it starts from the end process, right? So let's go ahead and make the representation of reverse proxy servers because they are giving a solid enterprise solution to a lot of people out there. So into the reverse proxy, first of all, what happens? It is exactly the reverse of this forward proxy. So if I say reverse, then it is going to get started from the end. So here in the end, you have the web server. So likewise, it is the solution that is starting for the enterprise edition people. So which is why we are keeping in the mind that the process should start from the perspective of a web server, right? So here into this web server, so this is your web server in this case. So what is happening is that they are putting up a proxy server here. So now the question arises that why are they putting the proxy server in here? Why do they need the proxy server? They need the proxy server because suppose if there are too many clients coming up and the load is getting very heavy onto the web server, then they are going to put a lot of proxy servers which will save the cache and it will serve the exact data that is right there onto the web server. It is actually like the cache that are being saved into your browsers. So they are doing the same part by putting up some extra proxy servers. So which is why people say that proxy is giving solution for the load balancing as well. So they are putting a lot of proxy servers here, which is why I told you into the earlier case that there could be more than one proxy server as well. So into the enterprise edition, this is giving them this solution. And then you have here as the firewall. So let me name it as firewall. Right, and then you have the internet in here. So I can name it as internet. And then in the end, you have the client in here. So I can name it as a client. So what is the process among here? First of all, the request is being sent from the web server. And if the request is not being from the web server, then it is being sent from the proxy server. This methodology will still stay reverse because the firewall is coming up from the perspective of user. So it will recheck if everything is okay. So this firewall will check everything over there. And then, this is sending its data to the internet because the client has requested it. Right, and then it is going up into this fashion again, the proxy server is interchecking that from where they need to serve the data. So if somebody in the exam is telling you to make a quick graph or the mapping of how actually this chain is right here, then you can make it exactly like that. These old arrows are going to be same like it was there into the forward proxy server. These are going to be same because you cannot change the process of clients. So it is same in this case as well. But right now, only these two steps will be changed because it is the reverse. And also now we are sending the request from our perspective. So our request is going to go from the firewall to the internet and to the client. So this is the reverse proxy in here. Into the reverse proxy, we start everything from the perspective of web servers. And secondly, we are putting up some proxy servers in order to balance the load. So this was the quick summary about what exactly the proxy is. So let's go ahead and check out the different application which will open up more of your concept about the different kind of proxies. So let me rub these up. And I won't be rubbing the main mapping because that will make you to understand about the different kind of proxies. But as of now, I'll be just writing the name of the proxies and we are going to have a quick discussion about them so that you can actually understand the use of proxy. So the first one that I would like to talk about is the split proxy server. Right. So the first one is the split proxy server. Like I stated that, suppose if the load is getting heavy, then you can, make more than one proxy. So it is implemented as two programs installed onto the two different systems in order to serve the purpose. The purpose could be any of that. So like into the example of web servers, like I told you that you can split these kind of proxy into the as much systems on as much you can. So first one you have here is the split proxy. The second one that I want to talk about is the transparent proxy basically. So this is the second type of proxy, transparent proxy. So if we talk about the transparent proxy, then it is just a proxy that we are putting up to serve any kind of content in a very transparent way. It is not going to hinder your IP address. It is not going to keep you anonymous. It is not going to change anything at all, but it is there to set up a local environment onto the port 80, you can say. So this is called as a transparent proxy. And then the third one you have in here is the hostile proxy. So the third one you have here is hostile proxy. So the hostile proxy are the little dangerous ones. It is basically kind of used to spy on you. So we drop a honeypot in between the mapping on your network, like somewhat in here, without letting you know. So by this honeypot, we can spy on you. For example, what are the things that you are accessing over the internet? So it is usually used to eavesdrop upon the data flow between the client machine and the web. So this is what actually the hostile proxy is. And then the fourth one you have in here is the intercepting proxy server. So by the name it suggests, it's quite easy and obvious to understand that it is the intercepting proxy. So if you will have a good knowledge about proxy, you will be able to decide that on which application and at which point the right proxy will serve the purpose for you. So basically intercepting proxy is being set up in here, you can say. So you must have seen that into a lot of companies there are some policies onto the administration level that they don't allow you to use all the content. Some of the content is restricted. So onto the endpoint, they are setting up this intercepting proxy so that they can use it for you to prevent the avoidance of acceptable use policy, and it is usually there for the use of administration. So that is called as the intercepting proxy. Then the fourth one you have in here is the forced proxy server. Right. So forced proxy server is a combination of intercepting and non-intercepting policies. It gives the extra permission to the restricted content over the cloud for global action. Global action, I mean, for example, right, suppose there is one user in which you want to allow him to use any certain website, but you don't want to allow the whole group in order to access that content. So I particularly want only one user to allow that content. For that, I'll be using the forced proxy in order to give him the allowance of using that restricted content according to our policies, you can say. So the next one is we have caching proxy. So the caching proxy server is doing what? So what exactly the caching proxy is doing? Like I told you that the web server is getting a lot of load. So it will make a identical proxy server by storing the cache of main web server. So this proxy server will help you to balance the load actually, which is actually the use of caching proxy. And then the next we have the most famous and the common one is the web proxy server. So let's write its type actually so that you can also remember that this is one of the type of proxy. So you have the web proxy in here. Right. So into this web proxy, this is the most common proxy. This is targeted for World Wide Web, but it is hosted over the internet only. For example, you can see that there is one proxy named as K-proxy. By going on to that website, you can access other website. That website is wholly made like a browser, you can say, browser inside a browser, where you can access the third-party restrict content. So these are basically the web-based proxy. They are not at all secured because they are monitoring all of your content since you are already going on to their website by which the packet is being created about what you are surfing and what you're typing in there and what are the logs that you're creating over there. So that is already being created when you go on to their website. So these web proxies are used in some of the cases, but just wanted to give you a quick idea that this is not at all the secured one, because the secured one you have is the seventh kind of proxy, that is called as anonymous proxy. So the anonymous proxies are not super anonymous, but they are anonymous to a certain level that it will solve your purpose for accessing the restricted content. Because at administration level, you must have seen that in every country there are some kind of websites that are restricted. So in order to gain the access of that, you go ahead and try for the anonymous website. So these are also called as HTTPS proxies. So it is basically used to access the website that are restricted by the governance firewall. So these are the 7 kind of proxies. So I still remember one more kind of proxy. They are the most favorite one of mine, that is called as SOX proxy. Right. So the SOX proxy is a client library for the SOX. First of all, the meaning of SOC is socket, and then here S here is standing for secure. Right. So these kind of socket secure proxies are always monitored by IETF. That is one of the most famous that is actually taking care of internet engineering task forces. So they are setting up the standards for the socket secure, which is why it is one of the most secure proxy out there. It is just like a proxy system only, but it also supports the proxy aware application, and it does not allow the external network component to collect any kind of client's information that had generated the request. And you can say that they're directly hosted onto the FTP, Telnet. And you can also see that you can, manually configure these kind of SOX proxies onto the operating systems like Kali. You can also do that for Parrot OS. Subgraph and Tail OS is also there into the Linux where you can, configure the socket secure proxy manually. You also have the high anonymity proxy. Now, this is something that I can rely on. So this is going to be your 9th kind of proxy, that is called as high anonymity proxy. Okay, so what is the concept behind this high anonymity proxy? Is that they don't have any storage in their servers to store their data, which is why they cannot store any of your data, and that is also keeping you safe. So a few months back in India, this law was passed that you gotta have to store the data if you want to work as a proxy server provider in India. By which that they have given the explanation, a lot of companies have given the explanation that we have the high anonymity servers, which means that we don't have any storage at all in order to store the data, which is why we cannot go ahead and work with the compliance of this country, which is why a lot of VPN services and these kind of VPN companies are being situated from India to Singapore or to some other countries these days. So these are called the high anonymity server. If they won't have storage, you are super anonymous, and your data is also super anonymous because it is not stored anywhere at all onto the internet. Then the next kind of proxy is the rotating proxy, right? So onto the 10 number we have here is rotating proxy. So rotating proxy, you will find this proxy into the module of proxy chaining as well. Into the rotating proxy, it assigns a unique IP address to each client that is connected over there. It is ideally for the users who do a lot of continuous web scraping, because what happens when you do the web scraping from the Amazon or Google or maybe some of the websites like that, they usually block your IP address so that you cannot scrape the data continuously. In that case, this rotating proxy can help you out. It can change your IP address in a rotating manner by which you can scrape the data again and again. So which means it will allow us to return to the same website again and again, and we can scrape the data again and again. So this rotating proxy is quite helpful out there for the web scrapers actually. So we are done with a lot of proxies right here. We have listed 10 of the proxies, and now I am removing this part here because I want to list more proxies for you, and these proxies are quite important one out there. So which is why it is going to be the most detailed session that you will ever attend on proxy. So last 7-8 proxies are going to be the important one because they are the main proxies that are going to help you out into the enterprise editions, right? So let's change the color of my pan. So now we have seen that in the proxy, there was a problem of encryption, right? If you'll go with the normal proxies, then the encryption problem wasn't solved, for which they have resulted into a very individual proxy that is called as SSL Proxy Server. Right, so what actually the SSL proxy is doing, it is encrypting the data from both the points. For example, it is encrypting here as well, and it is encrypting here as well. So right from the starting of the stage to this point, right before the ending of the stage, it is encrypting your data, which means it encrypts the data between the client and the server. And it also means that the data is encrypted in both the direction. So these proxy hides its existence from both the client and the server. It is best suited for the organizations that enhance protection against the threats. In an SSL proxy, the content encrypted, if the content is encrypted, it cannot be cached, right? So these were the SSL proxies. They are quite helpful in order to stop the cache, because in all the cases and in all the demands, you don't need to cache the server all the time, right? So you can also stop that from happening into the SSL proxy. On to the number 12, we have a shared proxy. So what actually, let me just write down here, like this is the shared proxy. Right, so the shared proxy, what happens is that you must have heard about the shared hosting. What do? Suppose they have they have given you like 1 TB of hosting. In that 1 TB of hosting, you are hosting more than one website over there. You are allotting a 1 GB space or maybe 2 GB space to the users over there. Likewise, these shared proxies are also coming up with the paid plans. But into the paid plans, they are saying that they are going to share your proxy with someone else. For that, they will charge you less. So it is never a good idea to use the shared proxy, which is the reason why the user can be blocked from the websites as well. And without, you haven't yet done anything on the website, but still you can get blocked over there. Next up we have is the public proxy. So the public proxy is, everybody must have used the public proxy, but this is again not a good solution onto the enterprise level because, a shared proxy is available for the free of cost in the case of public proxies. Like you must have seen that a lot of HTTP or HTTPS proxies are freely available and listed for the public use. It is perfect for the user for whom the cost is a significant concern, but the security and speed are literally so terrible in this case. And using a public proxy puts the user at high risk because others can also access the information on internet that what exactly are you looking for. So this is again a very bad solution. But now let's talk about a good solution in this case. So into the 14th number, we have residential proxy. So what happens into the residential proxy? It assigns an IP address to a specific device because it is for residential purpose only. All the requests that are made by the client are channeled through this device only. It is ideal for the user who want to verify ads that are displayed onto their website. We can block the unwanted and the suspicious ads from the competitors. First of all, we can also, in case if you are looking for that, we can also, block the ads that are 18 plus, that are not favorable to run on your websites. Actually, we can block the unwanted and suspicious ads basically here. And compared to other proxies, the residential proxies are more reliable in the case of server. So residential proxies are mostly preferred by the people who are hosting the servers actually for their website. So the next up we have here is on to the 15th number. We have the distorting proxy, right? So we have in here is the distorting proxy. Right. So what happens in the distorting proxy, that it is really different from others because it identifies itself as a proxy to a website, but it hides its own identity. The actual IP address is changed by providing an incorrect. If it has to, hide its own identity, then it has to do something that is witty. And that witty part here is that it is giving a wrong IP address over there. So, by providing the incorrect IP address, it is perfect for the clients who do not want to disclose their location while serving. So a lot of people are using a distorting proxy, but the blame could go to anyone else. But suppose in case if that IP, the wrong IP that the distorting proxy is giving is common to some other user. So distorting proxy could be dangerous as well in this case. Now on to the 16th number, I would like to mention the data center proxy. Okay, so basically into the data center proxy, it is a particular type of proxy which is not affiliated with any kind of internet service provider. It is basically for the local use of organization. Into the corporation, it provides its data through the data center. These servers can be found in physical data centers, like a physical machine that is anywhere down there, which is helping you as a work of proxy. So you can also set up your own proxy into your physical machines. That is being adopted by this data center proxy. Actually, it is ideal for the clients who want quick responses because there is no third-party data in here. It does not provide high level of anonymity because it is already being stored by some offline machine that is actually hosting that data center proxy for you, which means with that machine they can completely monitor you. So it is not at all anonymous, but it can be used onto the corporation level. On to the number 17th, we have here is HTTP proxy. Right. So HTTP proxies are those proxy servers that are used to save cache files on the base of your browsing history. It saves the time and it enhances the speed because the cache is already stored onto the browser of the user actually, right? So if your cache is already stored, like the browser is working over there, it is working onto the same fashion. The HTTP proxy is saving the cache locally into your browser or into your memory actually. So if the user is again looking to access or maybe same file without even browsing the proxy, then the cache is already stored, which will help the HTTP proxy to raise down the speed. But in case if you are looking to stay anonymous, again the HTTP proxy is not at all recommended because sometimes you don't require to save the cache. The last one, I would like to put the last one into two parts actually, because we have seen that we have here SOX proxy, and latestly into the recent days earlier people were using SOX 4 proxy. That was actually the 4th edition of the proxy. After that, the SOX 5 edition was introduced into the SOX 5 proxy. So just a quick tip into the 18th point, that instead of using SOX 4 proxy, you should go for SOX 5 proxies. They are the more powerful ones. And apart from this, they are holding a large level of encryption as well, which is why they have introduced the HTTPS proxy these days, because in earlier days nobody gave any thought about the encryption into the proxy, that is the SSL secured proxies, which is why they have introduced the HTTPS proxy as well. So it is working exactly into the same fashion of HTTP proxies, but it is now SSL secured. So it will encrypt your data actually, but again, you're staying in a monitored network and you have the cache stored over there. So which is why HTTPS is the upgraded part of HTTP proxy, and SOCKS 5 is also the upgraded part of SOCKS 4 proxies actually. So like I have promised that in this session, we took more than 18 proxies. We also understood that what actually is the use of proxy. Just to give you a quick refresher, let's talk about the advantages of Proxy Server. First of all, it will improve the security and it will also enhance the privacy of the user. Secondly, it can hide the IP address of the user. Thirdly, it controls the traffic and it can prevent the crashes, right? And it also saves the bandwidth by caching the file and compressing the incoming traffic. Fifthly, it can protect our network from malware because, like I showed you here, firewall is working in order to, keep you safe from going up from the malware practices as well. Also, if we talk about what exactly is the need of proxy, then it reduces the chances of data breach if you are finding the right architecture for with the right proxy source. Like I have shown you these 18 ways and 18 parts of proxy, and they can support the different architecture according to the need of an hour. So all of these proxies are good, but you gotta have to decide that which is suiting up your architecture, because the use of proxy could be same into the different manners. It also adds a subsidiary layer of security between the server and the outside traffic. It also protects you from the hackers, obviously, and it also filters the request into the right way. So this was the quick session related to proxy. We have learned into the most detailed manner about the proxy. So now you'll be able to understand that what are the different kind of proxy that are suitable for your architecture, and what is actually the part of proxy into your real life and into your technical life as well. So this was a quick session. I would like to end this session over here only. If you are liking my videos, don't forget to give me a feedback into the comment section, and keep subscribing and keep hitting the bell icon so that I can make more fruitful sessions for you all. So that's it for today's session. I'll see you tomorrow again with some another video.